Explore the life and legacy of one of history's most formidable leaders, Genghis Khan. From his humble beginnings on the Mongolian steppes to his rise as the founder of the Mongol Empire, this video provides a comprehensive look at his extraordinary journey. Discover his military genius, cultural impact, and enduring influence on the world. Chapter 1: The Rise of Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan, also known as Genghis Khan, was the person who founded and became the first ruler, Khagan, of the Mongol Empire. This empire eventually became the largest continuous land empire ever seen in history. He dedicated most of his life to uniting the various Mongol tribes and then led a series of military campaigns that successfully captured significant portions of China and Central Asia. They nearly ruled over the entire Eurasian continent with only around 100,000 soldiers. It's not just 100,000 people, it's quite different. So, why did Genghis Khan want to conquer the world in the first place? Revenge. It all began with a personal vendetta and the desire to get back at those who had hurt his family. This desire for revenge grew and eventually turned into a quest for conquest. Now, let's take a look at the extraordinary birth and upbringing of the great conqueror, Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan's father was Yeshugay, the leader of the Biography clan, a Mongol tribe. However, Genghis Khan's father abducted a woman from another tribe, and that woman turned out to be Genghis Khan's mother, Hoelun. So, Genghis Khan was born as a result of this abduction, a common practice on the Mongolian steppe at the time. This kind of abduction was quite usual in those days. The child born from this union would later become Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan was said to be an extraordinary child from the moment he was born. When Genghis Khan's mother was pregnant with him, she was inside a traditional Mongolian tent. And suddenly, the roof collapsed, falling onto her belly. The story goes that when Genghis Khan's mother was pregnant, she heard a voice telling her, "You will give birth to a son who will become the ruler of the world." So, when Genghis Khan was born, he held a clot of blood in his right hand. This was seen as a sign that he was destined to become a great leader. Even today in Mongolia, if babies are born with a bit of blood on their hands, it's considered a sign that they will become warriors in the future. These signs were very important. Despite being born with such auspicious signs, Genghis Khan had to endure a difficult and painful period known as the Mongol Tears era. During this time, the Mongol steppe was home to various tribes, some powerful and others weaker. Mongolia was home to strong tribes like the Nayman, Tatar, Merkid, and many smaller tribes. These tribes often fought each other to survive, engaging in fierce battles and raids. Among these tribes, the Biography, to which Genghis Khan belonged, was one of the weaker ones. In fact, they started with very few resources. So, even unifying the Mongolian steppe itself was not an easy task for Genghis Khan. Chapter 2: External Threats. However, there was an external threat that united all the Mongol tribes and threatened their existence. When Genghis Khan was born, the Mongol steppe was going through a tough time known as the Mongol Tears era, primarily due to the rise of the Khitan-led Jin dynasty. The Jin dynasty had become the center of politics, economy, and culture in Northeast Asia. with abundant resources and a high standard of living. However, the Khitan rulers of the Jin dynasty saw the growing power of the Mongol nomadic tribes as a threat and took harsh measures to suppress them. They even used the Tatars as enforcers to monitor the Mongolian steppe on their behalf. What did they do? They imposed strict restrictions on the Mongols, including a ban on owning horses and weapons, essentially taking away their means of survival. The Mongols couldn't even freely speak their own language. The Khitan-led Jin dynasty was a formidable enemy and devised an elaborate plan to weaken the Mongol tribes by dividing and conquering them. They implemented a comprehensive system that restricted the Mongols' freedom of movement and aimed to strip them of their strength. For instance, they required permits for Mongols to own horses and limited their ability to speak Mongolian or participate in raids without one. They even controlled the Mongols' horses and livestock. The goal was to weaken the Mongols by dividing them, exploiting their differences, and erasing their strength. So, Genghis Khan, born into this challenging era, faced harsh conditions and challenges from a very young age. When Genghis Khan was born, the Mongol tribes were in dire straits due to the oppressive policies of the Jin dynasty. Genghis Khan was born into this difficult environment, but he would go on to change the course of history. The Jin dynasty, taking advantage of the Tata tribe, inflicted a terrible fate upon them and taller than a cartwheel, sowing the seeds of sorrow across the Mongolian grasslands. Genghis Khan, who would later survive the harsh wilderness and turmoil of Mongolia, was just a 9-year-old boy. However, a significant event occurred in his life when he was only 1 year old. At that time, the Mongolian tribes were fragmented, and what they needed most to consolidate their power was a strategic marriage alliance, known as a Conqueror. It was customary on the grasslands that even if you received a hostile invitation, you were obligated to accept it. When invited, food was offered on the spot, and it was polite to at least taste it. However, there were instances of deception, like poisoning alcohol or adding poison to drinks. People would wear a silver ring, and if the ring changed color upon contact with a substance, it indicated the presence of poison. Young Genghis Khan faced a series of hardships and realizations that struck him like a relentless storm after the tragic death of his father. Abandoned on the vast grasslands without a patriarch was almost akin to a death sentence, and he was even forsaken by his own uncles and tribesmen. Despite the dire circumstances, Genghis Khan, even as a young boy, constantly sought opportunities to survive. After several months, he managed to escape and sought refuge with the tribe where his wife, Bird, resided. There, he found a newfound supporter. However, Genghis Khan's trials were far from over. He faced a grave crisis as he sought vengeance for the abduction of his wife, only to lose her again. Desperate, he turned to his father's brother-in-law, a man named Temüjin Khan, for help. Genghis Khan arrived at Temüjin Khan's camp with a plea for assistance. In Mongolia, once a bond was formed, it could be taken to the very end. Friendship held great significance, akin to family. Genghis Khan launched an attack on the Milkit Water tribe with the aid of Unconquerable and Jamaica. Genghis Khan set out to reclaim his wife in the end. The battle unfolded, and ultimately, Genghis Khan emerged victorious. Genghis Khan distributed the spoils among his subordinates and made it clear that he would not take more than his share. This approach gained him rapid popularity on the steppes. Genghis Khan's name began to spread throughout Mongolian villages, and his ambitions started to take shape as he dreamed of unifying the region and becoming the foremost leader. Around 1186, Genghis Khan officially assumed leadership in Mongolia, becoming a Khan. However, rumors of Genghis Khan's rise to power led to tensions, particularly with Jamaica, his sworn brother and former ally. While Genghis Khan earned the trust and support of many people, Jamaica's leadership faced internal dissent. Dissatisfied individuals began to emerge in Jamaica's tribe, some of whom even abandoned him to join Genghis Khan. Witnessing the betrayal of his once loyal subordinates, Jamaica grew increasingly furious. This internal strife eventually escalated into a war between them, with Jamaica emerging victorious in the initial battle. Jamaica's army boasted numerous skilled warriors, and he had considerably more experience. After Genghis Khan's defeat, what followed was a gruesome act. Although Jamaica won the battle, it didn't mean that Genghis Khan was defeated entirely. The extent of Genghis Khan's defeat was disputed among the people. In the aftermath, Jamaica captured tribe members who had previously abandoned him to follow Genghis Khan. However, he subjected these individuals to brutal and horrifying executions, boiling them alive as punishment for their betrayal. Chapter 3: Military Tactics and Expansion. Genghis Khan always took the initiative on the battlefield. However, people often choose the unfavorable option over the favorable one. In the context of war, having a choice means allowing the weaker side to decide where they want to fight. It's like saying, "Do you want to battle here on this battlefield?" In the context of war, where would you choose to fight? Probably in a strong position. But Genghis Khan would intentionally choose a different battlefield strategy. He would create a tactical advantage by either setting the mountains on fire or blocking off all escape routes, effectively surrounding his enemies. After that, he would escape with his life. Genghis Khan's Mongol army grew in power, surpassing the Nayman, Kriat, and Tartar tribes. Next, Tarta also fell under his influence. Don't stop to gain the upper hand in defeating the enemy and acquiring spoils. After winning a battle, the spoils will belong to us, and I will distribute them among you. If I were a soldier, this promise would motivate me to fight harder and earn more rewards. Genghis Khan's strategic approach had a significant impact. Consequently, his subordinates fought with unwavering dedication and effort. Eventually, in 1202, the Mongol army achieved victory in the Tartar-Way War. Then, Genghis Khan defeated Jamaica in a duel and even made the Karait tribe submit. Especially after declaring that those who would not become loyal to him after being defeated would face severe consequences. He dealt decisively with those who betrayed him. Nobles were executed by having horses step on them. However, it's important to note that these actions reflected the values of that time, which were very different from our current values. Following these events, Genghis Khan prepared to confront the Nayman tribe in war because his sworn brother Jamaqua had fled to the Nayman after losing. However, the Mongol army was vastly outnumbered by the Nayman. So, how did Genghis Khan make his army appear larger than it was? You might think it's too simple. But it's not a scarecrow. The Nayman hadn't seen the steppe for so long that they probably couldn't recognize it. Genghis Khan used this method to make his army appear 10 times larger than it actually was. He placed scarecrows on his horses and even tied branches to their tails, creating the illusion of a much larger force. This way, he deceived the enemy into believing that he had many more troops than he actually did. You can imagine the tension in that situation. Genghis Khan employed scarecrows to create the illusion that his army was over 10 times larger than it truly was. When the enemy observed his forces, they must have thought, "Wow! They have a vast number of soldiers." Genghis Khan was quite a spectacle, wearing a crown and all. Despite unifying the Mongol steppe, internal divisions persisted among the tribes. To address this, Genghis Khan eliminated the leaders of many rival tribes and nobles. He then restructured the Mongol steppe into tribal units. He also implemented a system where men aged 15 to 65 or even 70 were in constant military service. If you were between the ages of 15 and 70, you were obligated to participate in times of war. Living a long life was fortunate, but it still meant serving in the army. Serving in the military was a source of pride for men during that era and a significant part of their identity. It was indeed quite demanding. Originally, the Mongol military system had been in place for a long time, but Genghis Khan introduced some modifications. The Mongol nomadic armies operated on a decimal-based system, with a fundamental unit being a group of 10 men known as a tumen. If there were 10 men, it constituted one tumen. Then, 10 tumens made 100 tumens, which equaled 1,000 men. Finally, several hundred tumens formed 10,000 tumens, representing around 6,000 to 7,000 men in a typical army. 1,000 tumens, 100 tumens, and 10 tumens were all directly appointed by Genghis Khan. He centralized all power, creating a highly centralized system. Chapter 4, Leadership and the Tumen System. Genghis Khan stated that if someone could effectively lead 10 men in battle, they could be promoted to lead 100 men. If they excelled in leading 100 men, they could lead 1,000. And if they demonstrated proficiency at leading 1,000, they could command 10,000. Essentially, it meant that anyone with the ability could advance through the ranks. That's right, Genghis Khan opened opportunities for those who demonstrated capability. Whether they became leaders of 10, 100, or 1,000. Having the necessary skills was the key. It's a straightforward system, but it allowed Genghis Khan to build a formidable and disciplined army, exerting control over both the populace and the military. The term tumen appears consistently in all of them. So, Cumin is a common element in all the laws. After unifying the fragmented nomadic tribes into the Mongol Empire, Genghis Khan initiated a series of conquests. Prior to reaching their primary target, the Jin dynasty, the Mongols made a strategic stop at another location. It was because there was a chance to establish an alliance with that country, which is known as Yumen today. Yumen held a vital position on the Silk Road and was rich, which made it a crucial intermediary step before advancing on the Jin dynasty. The Mongols had already planned to capture some prisoners during their campaign, and one of them would act as a spy. This spy falsely conveyed that the Mongols were starving and had no provisions. Consequently, the Jin dynasty believed this information and sent a message stating, "Allow them in, we'll end the siege." However, this was a pre-arranged operation. The captured spy had already agreed to be taken as a prisoner. Upon returning to the Mongols, he communicated, "The Jin dynasty has accepted your terms." They didn't realize this was a psychological warfare tactic. The Mongols employed cats and pigeons to transport fire and break through the city walls of the Jin dynasty. Genghis Khan had trained these animals to carry burning materials to the city walls. This ingenious strategy allowed them to breach the walls. It was a psychological maneuver. The Jin dynasty consented to admit the Mongols, believing they were starving. However, when the Mongols entered, they unleashed their secret weapon, cats and pigeons with fire attached to their tails, creating a firestorm that breached the walls and enabled them to capture the city. The Jin dynasty was toppled using this method. This demonstrates that Genghis Khan was not only a military tactician but also a master of psychological warfare. Before Genghis Khan's unification of the nomadic tribes, the Mongol steppe was characterized by turmoil and division. Many people perished, livestock numbers dwindled, and food shortages were widespread. To address these problems, they had no alternative but to embark on a campaign to secure resources. Chapter 5, Diplomacy and Deception in Tangut. Tumans formed 100 tumans, which was equivalent to 1,000 men. 100 tumans, in turn, constituted 1,000 tumans, or roughly 6,000 to 7,000 men in a typical army. The appointments of these military units, whether 1,000 tumans, 100 tumans, or 10 tumans, were made directly by Genghis Khan, reflecting a highly centralized system. However, Genghis Khan introduced a meritocratic approach to leadership within this system. He stated that if a person could effectively lead 10 men in battle, they could be promoted to lead 100 men. If they proved capable in leading 100, they could command 1,000. And if they demonstrated competence at that level, they could be entrusted with 10,000 soldiers. Essentially, Genghis Khan emphasized that capability and effectiveness determined leadership positions, and doors were open for anyone who could prove their abilities. This seemingly simple system allowed Genghis Khan to build a strong and ruthless army that was well structured, and it allowed him to control both the military and the sentiments of the people effectively. He used strict laws, including the provision to help travelers, the importance of fire and embers, and the concept of communal support in the harsh nomadic life. to instill discipline and cohesion within the Mongol society. So, Genghis Khan's leadership was not just about conquering lands but also about establishing a well-organized and disciplined military and society. The provisions in the Yasa law, such as helping travelers, not urinating on water or ash, and returning runaway slaves or captives, all reflected the nomadic way of life and helped maintain order and unity among the Mongols. Genghis Khan's campaign against the Jin dynasty was a significant turning point in his conquests. The Jin dynasty was a powerful and economically prosperous state occupying a substantial part of northern China. Before embarking on this conquest, Genghis Khan made a strategic move by first capturing the Mongol Empire, known as Temüjin or Yuman, which was strategically located along the Silk Road. The Mongol Empire was a crucial stop on the Silk Road due to its wealth and its location. Genghis Khan saw the potential for an alliance with Mongol, which could provide resources and support for his campaign against the Jin dynasty. To secure this alliance, Genghis Khan employed both military and diplomatic tactics. Chapter 6, Mongol's Surrender and Alliance. Genghis Khan sent emissaries to Mongol with a message of his intention to form an alliance. In this message, he claimed that his Mongol forces were suffering from starvation and had no food. This was a psychological warfare tactic aimed at convincing Mongol that the Mongols were weakened and desperate, thus making them more inclined to form an alliance. Mongol, fearing the potential might of the Mongols and wanting to avoid conflict, decided to surrender to Genghis Khan. They offered a significant amount of camel silk, grain, and women, including the king's daughter, as a bride for Genghis Khan. This diplomatic maneuver secured Mongol's support for the upcoming campaign against the Jin dynasty. With Mongol as an ally, Genghis Khan could now focus his attention on the formidable Jin dynasty. The Jin dynasty was a wealthy and well-organized state, and defeating it was a challenging task. However, Genghis Khan's military strategies, including the use of psychological warfare and innovative tactics, eventually led to the downfall of the Jin dynasty. One of the notable psychological tactics used was the false claim of starvation to deceive the Jin dynasty's commander. Genghis Khan's army was skilled in using animals like cats and swallows to carry fire to breach the city walls, which was a unique and effective method of warfare. This campaign showcased Genghis Khan's military genius and his ability to use a combination of diplomacy and psychological warfare to achieve his goals. It also demonstrated the significance of forming strategic alliances when undertaking large-scale conquests. Chapter 7, The Kingdom of Krem. The Kingdom of Krem, also known as the Crimean Empire, played a significant role in the expansion of Genghis Khan's conquests beyond the Mongol Empire. Krem was a powerful and culturally rich empire located in the region of present-day Uzbekistan, Iran, Afghanistan, and other neighboring areas. To understand how Genghis Khan extended his influence into this region, it's essential to explore the historical context and the factors that contributed to his expansion. Krem was strategically situated at the crossroads of the Silk Road, which connected the east and west, as well as the north and south Silk Roads. This prime location made Krem a vital hub for trade, cultural exchange, and commerce between different regions and civilizations. The people of Krem were known for their contributions to various fields, including mathematics, such as the work of Al-Khwarizmi, and their expertise in commerce. Genghis Khan, while engaged in his campaign against the Jin dynasty in China, was keen on gathering intelligence about neighboring countries. He recognized the potential military strength and influence of Krem, which was growing in power and expanding its territory. Krem, under the leadership of its ruler, Shah Muhammad II, had a well-developed economy and military forces. Genghis Khan saw the opportunity to establish a foothold in this region, gain access to the Silk Road trade, and potentially form alliances. Initially, Genghis Khan attempted a diplomatic approach. He sent an envoy to the Crimean Empire, offering peace, trade, and goodwill. He even promised to share the spoils of war if the Crimeans did not engage in hostilities. However, this diplomatic overture was met with hostility and suspicion. Shah Muhammad II of Krem misunderstood Genghis Khan's message and perceived it as a sign of weakness. Instead of accepting the offer, he attacked Genghis Khan's envoy, which led to Genghis Khan's declaration of war. The ensuing conflict between the Mongols and the Crimeans resulted in a relentless campaign by Genghis Khan. While some regions voluntarily surrendered to avoid destruction, others resisted and faced unimaginable brutality from the Mongols. The Crimean Empire's refusal to cooperate ultimately led to its downfall. Genghis Khan's forces captured Shah Muhammad II, marking a turning point in the campaign. The Mongols' relentless pursuit and their military tactics contributed significantly to their success in the region. Krem's strategic location and the Mongols' conquest of this empire allowed Genghis Khan to expand his influence into the heart of Central Asia and establish a strong presence along the Silk Road trade routes. This expansion would eventually set the stage for further Mongol conquests into Western Asia and Europe. Chapter 8, From Diplomacy to War. The conflict between Genghis Khan and the Crimean Empire, led by Shah Muhammad II, escalated significantly due to the Crimeans' aggressive actions toward Mongol envoys and their refusal to cooperate. Genghis Khan initially sought peaceful trade relations and communication with Krem but was met with hostility and the massacre of his envoys. This marked a turning point, and Genghis Khan began preparing for a military campaign against Krem. In 1218, Genghis Khan, despite being in his late 50s, actively participated in the upcoming war. The Mongol army was organized into three branches, each with its own strategic objectives. They planned to attack multiple locations simultaneously or coordinate their forces to assault a single target. However, the Crimeans chose to take the offensive and launched a coordinated attack against Genghis Khan's forces. In response, Genghis Khan employed a holding tactic to defend against the Crimean assault. The conflict between the Mongols and the Crimean Empire would result in a series of campaigns and battles that would eventually lead to the downfall of Krem and solidify Genghis Khan's influence in the region. The Krem campaign was a pivotal moment in Genghis Khan's expansion across Central Asia and his ambition to control the Silk Road trade routes. Many regions chose to surrender to Genghis Khan to avoid devastation. However, in cities that resisted, the Mongols displayed unimaginable brutality. This included mass killings of both soldiers and civilians, sparing not even pets like dogs and cats. One notable example is the city of Nishapur in the Crimean region. It fiercely resisted. But when it fell to the Mongols, they massacred its inhabitants. According to some historical accounts, the death toll may have reached 1 million. The Shah of the Crimean Empire, Muhammad II, initially fled but was relentlessly pursued by Genghis Khan's forces. Ultimately, Genghis Khan's son, Tolui, captured him. Genghis Khan sought to set an example and exacted brutal revenge. He ordered molten silver to be poured into Muhammad II's eyes and ears as punishment for attacking his envoys. This episode underscores Genghis Khan's determination and his willingness to resort to extreme measures to achieve his objectives, whether through military conquest or diplomacy. However, despite fleeing from the Mongol army, Muhammad Shah of Crim met his demise on a small island near the Caspian Sea due to starvation. The Mongol army, in pursuit of Muhammad Shah, advanced through regions like Georgia, eventually reaching as far south as Russia. It was during this campaign that the Mongol forces clashed with a coalition of Russian armies. In the Battle of the Kalka River, the Mongols faced overwhelming numbers in the form of the Russian coalition but employed their distinctive tactics to outmaneuver and conquer their foes. Despite having fewer soldiers, the Mongols were compensated with their exceptional horsemanship and innovative weaponry. Mongol warriors possessed advanced skills in mounted archery, enabling them to shoot arrows both forward and backward while on horseback, granting them a distinct advantage in combat. They also wielded a variety of weapons, including daggers and a tool called a mar-al-asar, featuring a hook for tripping up enemy cavalry while riding. Furthermore, the Mongols maximized their mobility. They carried spare horses, allowing for quick mount changes when one horse tired. This allowed them to maintain a swift pace, even during extended campaigns. Essentially, a single Mongol warrior with a spare mount could function as a small, mobile army. Another crucial element of the Mongol army's strength was its strict discipline and code of conduct, established by Genghis Khan. These laws were stringent but effective. Soldiers understood that fleeing from battle or abandoning comrades would result in severe consequences. For example, if one soldier fled, 10 of his fellow soldiers would face execution. If 10 soldiers fled, 100 would meet the same fate, and so on. This code fostered camaraderie and unwavering determination among Mongol soldiers. They knew they were fighting not just for themselves but for their families and their honor. In the face of daunting odds, they battled with resolute determination. Chapter 8: Genghis Khan's Leadership. Genghis Khan's leadership was characterized by fairness. He treated his commanders and soldiers as equals, rewarding valor regardless of rank. However, betrayal was met with swift and severe retribution. This open and disciplined approach forged a united and dedicated force. The Mongol army became a formidable entity, renowned not only for its military prowess but also for its unity and discipline. As word of their victories spread throughout Europe, fear of the mighty Mongol army began to take root. The Mongol army's ability to inspire fierce loyalty and its unmatched mobility and tactics played a pivotal role in their victories during the campaign. Genghis Khan's unique laws and leadership style further solidified the Mongols' status as a dominant military force. This combination of factors made them a formidable power that left a lasting impact on history. The Mongol army's exceptional prowess and innovative tactics were instrumental in their victories and struck fear into the hearts of their adversaries. Here are some key aspects of their military strategies and techniques. 1. Scouting and reconnaissance. The Mongol army placed great importance on reconnaissance and gathering information about their potential adversaries. This allowed them to have a clear understanding of the terrain, enemy forces, and strategic opportunities. 2. Psychological warfare. The Mongols were adept at using psychological warfare to their advantage. Their reputation for invincibility and ruthlessness instilled fear in their enemies long before they arrived on the battlefield. 3. Archery skills. Mongol warriors were renowned for their exceptional archery skills. They could shoot arrows both forward and backward while riding on horseback. This allowed them to maintain a continuous barrage of arrows on the enemy, creating a devastating and relentless attack. 4. Stirrups. Mongol cavalrymen used stirrups, which allowed them to have greater stability and control while riding. This innovation significantly improved their mounted archery capabilities. 5. Hooked weapons. The Mongol army used hooked weapons, such as the rhizome, to trip enemy cavalry. These weapons could be deployed while riding and could disrupt enemy formations by causing horses to stumble or fall. 6. Mobility and logistics. Mobility was crucial in Mongol warfare. They didn't rely on traditional supply lines or logistics. Instead, they carried provisions like dried meat, similar to beef jerky, under their saddles, using the warmth of their horses to cook it slightly. This provided them with a mobile source of sustenance, eliminating the need for supply units. 7. Influence on European cuisine. The concept of using meat patties, similar to modern-day hamburger patties, is said to have been inspired by the Mongols. They would place chunks of beef or mutton under their saddles, and the pressure and heat from the horse's back would cause the meat to harden and cook into a patty-like form. This culinary practice eventually made its way to Europe. The Mongol army's adaptability, mobility, and mastery of mounted archery made them a formidable force in warfare. Their tactics and innovations left a lasting impact on military history and influenced subsequent generations of warriors. Genghis Khan's law that ensured the commitment and loyalty of his soldiers was both powerful and strict. This law was a fundamental part of the Mongol military and social structure. Here's a summary of the key aspects of this law. 1. Collective responsibility. The law imposed collective responsibility on units of soldiers. If one person in a unit ran away during battle, the entire unit would face punishment. This meant that soldiers were highly motivated to ensure their comrades did not flee. 2. Escalating punishments. The severity of punishment increased with the number of deserters. If 10 members of a unit ran away, 100 members of the unit would be executed. This escalation of punishment reinforced group cohesion and discouraged desertion. 3. Comradeship and loyalty. Genghis Khan's law emphasized the importance of staying with one's comrades on the battlefield, even in the face of death. Soldiers who survived while their comrades fell would be executed because they could not remain with their fellow warriors. 4. Equal treatment: the law promoted equality within the Mongol army. Commanders were not allowed to mistreat their soldiers, and all members of the army, including commanders, were subject to the same laws and punishments. 5. Reward and punishment: Genghis Khan rewarded those who remained loyal, even if they were formerly enemies, and punished those who betrayed him, even if they were once allies. This system ensured that trust and loyalty were highly valued. The law served as a powerful incentive for soldiers to stand their ground and fight to the end, as the consequences of desertion were severe. It reinforced the idea that the army operated as a cohesive unit, where each soldier's life and actions were intertwined with those of their comrades. This collective responsibility and unwavering commitment played a significant role in the Mongol army's military success. Chapter 9: Death and Succession. However, Genghis Khan faced a tremendous trial when he was thrown from his horse while suppressing the Western Xia rebellion. During the Temüjin campaign, Genghis Khan personally joined the battle but realized that there was a shortage of war horses. Startled by a wild horse, he was thrown from his horse and seriously injured. As a result, Genghis Khan suffered from a high fever and began to sense his impending death. At this point, Genghis Khan was already over 70 years old. He decided to designate his successor and leave a final testament. He instructed them not to reveal his death and to keep it a secret. Genghis Khan believed that if his death became known, neighboring nations that had been subjugated might rebel. Therefore, he wanted to maintain the appearance of his rule even after his death. This secrecy extended to the location of his burial site, as Genghis Khan's final resting place remains a well-guarded secret to this day. Genghis Khan's burial was accompanied by an intricate ritual. His body was interred in a grave, covered with a wide layer of soil. Thousands of horses were released over the burial site, and trees were planted to conceal it. This ensured that Genghis Khan's final resting place would remain hidden for many centuries. Genghis Khan, who devoted his life to the Mongol Empire, passed away secretly, leaving behind a legacy that extended far beyond his lifetime. In 1229, Genghis Khan's third son, Genghis Khan, ascended to power and initiated a series of campaigns to expand the empire. While Genghis Khan had launched the empire's ascent, it was under Genghis' leadership that the Mongol Empire continued to grow, expanding beyond Asia and into Eastern Europe. This era marked the commencement of the Mongols' influence in Western Eurasia. The Mongol Empire, born from Genghis Khan's vision and leadership, continued to shape the course of history, leaving an enduring imprint on the world. Subsequently, they created a painting depicting the complete defeat of the coalition army. The Mongol army achieved victory in the war. At that time, they conducted a triumphant procession while displaying the heads of the commanders of the European coalition army from Hungary and Poland on spears. They also captured numerous prisoners and counted the number of casualties by cutting off their right ears, with the recorded figure totaling 9 digits. Chapter 10: Genghis Khan's children who continued to conquer the world. It's not the time of Genghis Khan anymore. It was actually Genghis Khan's children who continued to conquer the world. Around 1229, while Ade was ruling, There was a significant conflict. One side attacked Goryeo, and the other side did the same. They also sent their sons and nephews on expeditions to Russia and Eastern Europe. It was a tough battle, but they had to fight to protect their territory and expand Mongolia's influence. Their ultimate goal was to improve education and resources in Mongolia. They wanted to create a system to achieve this goal. During Ude's time, even distant Western Europe started to feel threatened. A battle that terrified all of Europe took place, the Battle of Lignite. This battle involved the Mongolian army facing the allied forces of Eastern Europe, including Poland. Uday sent his capable son, Batu, as the commander-in-chief on an expedition to Russia and Eastern Europe. The Mongolian army was well equipped with fast cavalry and powerful siege weapons. They easily conquered cities in southern Russia and quickly moved into Eastern Europe. The commanders sent a letter to the Hungarian monarch, urging them to surrender to the Mongol king. The Hungarian king received the letter, but before anyone could prepare for battle, the Mongol army of 150,000 split into two groups, one in Liegnitz and the other in the Mohi region. Fierce battles occurred in these two places, especially at the Battle of Liegnitz, where the Mongolian army faced controversy. Poland hurriedly assembled allied forces. During this time, controlling momentum was crucial in war. The outcome of the first battle greatly affected morale. Initially, the Mongol cavalry fell, and European soldiers launched a strong attack. Eventually, the Mongol army turned and fled. European knights pursued them at a frightening pace. However, some Mongolian forces, following a classic tactic used by nomads since ancient times, appeared weak and fled, luring the enemy into chasing them. After tricking them, they turned around and fled again. This tactic was similar to what we saw earlier with the Parakan shots. During this period, the Mongolian army coated their arrowheads with poison and launched volleys of arrows, numbering in the dozens, hundreds, or even thousands, simultaneously like a sudden burst of light. The Hungarian and Polish allied forces chasing them were severely affected. Eventually, the Allied army was completely defeated. At that time, a Mongolian general emerged victorious in the war. In a gruesome act, he beheaded the commander of the European Allied forces from Hungary and Poland, impaled the head on a spear, and paraded it away. They also captured many prisoners and marched back to the Mongol camp. Ears were cut off from the prisoners, and the number of victims was counted, totaling 9 units. This terrorized people in both Eastern and Western Europe, making them believe they were dealing with beings from hell. However, something very peculiar occurred. The Mongol army suddenly stopped all battles and began retreating after reaching the Vienna region in present-day Austria. The reason was the death of the second Khanda Khanenofdii in December 1241. While his father lived into his mid-60s, this man died in his early 40s, likely due to excessive drinking. After Ubri's death, his son became Genghis Khan, and Genghis Khan's youngest son, Tolu's son, became decal. In 1260, Kublai's younger brother, Kublai, ascended the throne as the fifth Deccan of the Mongol Empire. This marked the beginning of Kublai's rule. The Mongol Empire continued to expand, ultimately conquering all of China in 1279. Within just 50 years. If you look at it today, you'll see that China and parts of Russia, Ukraine, Iraq, Iran, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, parts of Germany, Poland, Hungary, and Eastern Europe were all, in simple terms, part of the Mongol Empire's territory. To put it in perspective, it covered about half of the Earth's landmass. If you compare it to our country's size, it's immense. At the time, knowledge of the new continent was limited, so people considered it vast. In Mongolian, it was referred to as Shimiku, which means immense. This was the era of the Great Mongol Empire. During this period, tea-ware became widespread. Consequently, people in both Eastern and Western Europe were terrorized by the Mongols. This period witnessed the conquest of a vast expanse, encompassing China, Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, parts of Germany, Poland, and Hungary, as well as Eastern and Western Europe. To put it in modern terms, it's akin to roughly half of the Earth's landmass. Except for Siberia, it all fell under the dominion of the Mongol Empire. At that time, their understanding of continents was limited, so it may seem astonishing. Nonetheless, the Mongol Empire effectively interconnected all these regions through a transportation and communication network. The Silk Road, once a trade route, was now interconnected by the Mongols. They effectively managed the entire network, facilitating communication and the exchange of cultures, languages, and customs across vast regions. This marked the era of the Grand Voyage, where individuals could traverse the entire expanse. Marco Polo, a name familiar to many, ventured into the Mongol Empire during Kublai Khan's reign and meticulously chronicled his observations over 17 years. His accounts, compiled as the Travels of Marco Polo, offered invaluable insights into both the Mongol Empire and China. During this period, a system known as the Yam was established, revolutionizing communication and postal services. The term Yam is the origin of the word post, referring to the distances between relay stations along the routes. This system found extensive use in handling official documents and hosting and dispatching foreign envoys. The hallmark of the Mongol Empire was its remarkable tolerance of diverse ethnic groups and cultures. They acknowledged the political authority, culture, and languages of various regions, refraining from imposing their religion or coercively altering local customs. Instead, they primarily collected taxes from the territories under their control. Consequently, the 13th and 14th centuries witnessed an era of global exchange and communication, bridging the farthest reaches of the East and West. During medieval times, Genghis Khan, the founder of the Mongol Empire, never permitted his image to be portrayed in any form of art. As a result, any paintings, sculptures, or engravings that exist today are interpretations by later historians, many of whom wrote long after his death. The earliest descriptions of Genghis Khan's physical appearance come from historical accounts. Persian chronicler Juzjani, who relied on eyewitnesses from Khorasan, and the Song diplomat Zhao Hong both mentioned that he was tall, strong, and had a powerful presence. Juzjani also noted the Khan's distinctive cat's eyes, a detail that Day Sechin, Genghis' father-in-law, had mentioned when meeting him as a 9-year-old. Another written account of his appearance can be found in the Jami al-Tawarikh, which states that Genghis Khan and his Burjagan ancestors had blue-green eyes and either red hair or a ruddy complexion, a description that has sparked controversy among historians. Interestingly, Genghis Khan had a favorable reputation among some medieval European authors, even though they had limited knowledge of his Asian empire. Italian explorer Marco Polo praised Genghis Khan as a man of great worth, ability, and valor. Philosopher and inventor Roger Bacon commended the scientific and philosophical achievements of Genghis Khan's empire, and Geoffrey Chaucer spoke highly of the great renown of Genghis Khan. Thanks for watching. Legends of the Global Gallery, a journey through great men.